Good morning, everybody. My name is Frederick Jenny. I'm the Director of Engagement for Via Rio Grande, the citizen advocacy group working to build awareness and prowess for the Rio Grande Plan. I want to first thank you all for being here today. I also want to thank the County Council for opening up their doors and letting us use this space. And I want to also thank everybody who's gotten us to this point, especially the group who put this together on our side, the group that we call the Launch Bunch. So thank you guys, really appreciate it. Today I'm proud to announce the completion of the Rio Grande Plan Economic Impact Analysis, which was done by Utah State University's John M. Huntsman School of Business. During this press conference, you will hear from a few stakeholders, including Christian Lenhart, who is one of the original creators of the Rio Grande Plan, 2 Utah State employees, and members of different elected offices. After which there will be an opportunity for questions and answer from the room. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Christian Lenhart.
Hello all, I'm Christian Linhardt. I'm one of the original co-authors of the Rio Grande Plan. By day I'm a civil engineer. You've probably driven on some of the freeway ramps that I've helped design for the Utah Department of Transportation. It's an exciting day for the Rio Grande Plan. We've promised for a long time that the Rio Grande Plan brings many benefits and would eventually pay for the cost of construction. Today we're going to prove it. The Rio Grande Plan is a scheme to realign the railroad tracks through downtown. Downtown Salt Lake City has multiple at-grade railroad crossings. It also has many very large freeway-style viaducts. The amount of train traffic going through our downtown area is exceptionally large for a city our size. We currently have between 50 and 60 activation events per railroad crossing per day. And with Frontrunner doubling frequency and with the inland ports creating more freight traffic, within the next 5 to 10 years, we could easily see about 100 trains go through each crossing per day, and that's a lot. People get blocked from going to school and work. There's fatalities every single year that are caused by collisions between pedestrians or cars and trains. And if there was another situation in our state where people were routinely dying every year from a preventable cause, we should take steps to solve that. So the Rio Grande Plan proposes moving the railroad tracks from their current location along 600 West into the original railroad corridor of 500 West, except this time in a contained below-grade structure. It's called a train box. You'll see a picture of what that looks like behind me. Reno, Nevada has built one of these. Theirs is 2 miles long. We're proposing one that's only 1 mile long. You can see that trains go through downtown below the street level. That way the street grid is reconnected, and the pedestrian traffic and even public transit on top can continue to work just like a downtown core of the city. There are 4 main goals of the Rio Grande Plan. First is safety. We want to stop the number of fatalities happening in our downtown area because of train collisions. The other one is community connectivity. We want to stop the communities from being divided, east and west. There's a lot of uncertainty when people try and go from the east side to the west side across the railroad tracks. Are the lights going to come on at all? Is it going to be 2 minutes? Is it going to be 20 minutes? Is it going to be an hour? The freight trains and the railroad crossings are a real division for the community east and west. The third is, of course, if you use the historic railroad corridor along 500 West, you go right past the historic, beautiful Rio Grande Depot. This is an amazing architectural piece for our city. It's exceptionally large train station. Even for its day, it was meant as a statement from the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad as to its intentions in the state of Utah in the Gilded Age in 1910 when it was built. You cannot build something of that grandeur and that size and scale today. The only way to have that is to reuse the buildings that we already have. And we're really lucky to have the Rio Grande Depot, so why not use it as a train station as was intended? And the fourth main reason for doing the Rio Grande Plan is community redevelopment. There's between 50 to 70 acres of underutilized rail yards on the outskirts of downtown, and this creates an undesirable area that nobody really wants to get near. It creates basically an economic fire break between the east and west sides, and that land could be utilized. If it could be used as downtown space, we could pay for the cost of building the Rio Grande Plan, but also have so much more economic benefit for the city. So just to summarize, the Rio Grande Plan will save lives. The Rio Grande Plan will also save community members time for not having to be stopped by railroad crossings. The Rio Grande Plan will save communities from division by railroad crossings. The Rio Grande Plan will save Salt Lake City from falling behind other cities that are doing similar redevelopment projects. And now we know the Rio Grande Plan is going to save taxpayers money too. So with that, let's figure out how that's going to happen. Pedram?
All right, thank you so much. I think Rio Grande Plan is a big deal, and you're so happy to be part of it. My name is Fedram Jahungri, and I'm an associate professor at Data Analytics and Information System Department up in Logan, Utah State University. I'm also one of the founders of the Analytics Solutions Center. I work as a mentor there, and the hope of the center is to bring students and faculty together to tackle some real-world challenges and problems. And typically on an annual basis, we do over 40 to 50 projects with different companies and research institutions across the United States. But of course, when it comes to our very own, giving back to our very own community here in Utah, we get excited. So that's why when the RGP team reached out, we said yes in a heartbeat, because we think that this is going to be one of the most impactful and meaningful projects in the Salt Lake City, which is going to reconnect decent neighborhoods and at the same time reimagine what this part of the city can offer. So to do a project this big with this scope, we needed to use the right tool. The right tool for us was InPlan. This is an economic modeling tool, stands for impact analysis for planning, and it's one of the most widely used and accepted economic modeling tools in industry, and both by researchers and policymakers. So the way that it works is that we knew that from the investment side, this project is going to cost $3 to $5 billion. But the big question was that, okay, what is the ripple effect of this investment to the economy? What is the return on investment? So that's why where ASC was hired, and we just jumped into this problem, and we tried to figure out using the InPlan. InPlan helps us to see what is how is this investment spent through the economy? What is the ripple effect? By measuring the direct, indirect, and induced effect for different sectors of the economy. InPlan is very well established, trusted, and have been tested for different multiple construction projects this size, like Denver Union Station, the Reno Retrack Rail project, and et cetera. And policymakers are not strange to that. They are familiar, they have seen this before, and this has been tested. So to implement this project using InPlan and see what is the impact on the economy and different sectors of the economy for the Salt Lake City and the state of Utah in general, we need to work with our best students. So that's why I hired two of my best graduate students, Curtis Bishop, who's here with me, who's going to walk you through the details of the InPlan and what we did and what are the outputs of this study, and Troy Weisenbach, who's not with us today, but these two gentlemen, I've had a chance to work with them for the past couple of years at different capacities. They have been TAing my courses at Utah State University, and they have done multiple ASC projects with me before. So the last one that we did was the project with the Facebook Meta, the company, and then we did this migration pattern study, and that study got published in New York Times last week in the cover page. So the reason that I'm bringing this up is that I can guarantee our students bring the same level of professionalism, quality, and skill to the Rio Grande Plan, and I cannot be more proud of them. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Curtis. He's going to walk us through the details of the InPlan.
Well, I feel a little oversold now. I'm Curtis. As Pedram mentioned, I'm a graduate student in financial economics at Utah State University. When I was first approached with this project, I thought that it seemed like a really neat opportunity to have a real impact on the state of Utah and its future moving forward. The big question when it comes to using InPlan and input-output analysis in general is how quality are the inputs you're sticking into the model. If you feed garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. And so luckily, due to the legwork of the Rio Grande Plan project team, we had a lot of high quality data handed to us from day one, including a physical feasibility and cost study performed by Kimley Horn Engineering. And so we really just had to focus on what are the costs of the redevelopment and operation going forward. In order to approach that, we used a report performed by the Redevelopment Agency of Salt Lake that specified how the 75 acres that are being proposed to be redeveloped would be utilized, and that would equate to roughly 2.5 million square feet of commercial space and 2,700 new mid-rise apartment units. The economic impact of these new developments would lead to $12.23 billion of total economic impact, which is $7.63 billion of direct value added to the GDP over the life of the project, with 2.2 billion of that being in perpetuity through the operational impacts of the new businesses, and the remainder being the construction and redevelopment. As a part of that, over the timeline of the project, we expect roughly 20,000 jobs to be associated with the construction and redevelopment, and then 15,600 operational jobs in new retail spaces, new office spaces, all of the new jobs associated with filling that commercial space. These jobs will obviously have a big impact on the Utah state taxes, and at the state, county, and sub-district level, we expect an increase of $129 million in operations in perpetuity. With these numbers in mind, and based on the $3 to $5 billion cost that Pedram mentioned, this seems like a screaming deal to me, but I'm not an expert.
But you are an expert.
In some things, not public policy. I'm not a political scientist. I'll leave that to our politicians that are here to speak. But yeah, thank you.
All right, excited to be here today. So Salt Lake County was one of the very first to give a nod to this. We were kind of excited about the concept of the Rio Grande Plan, and one of the things that we loved to begin with is this is a citizen-led initiative. Those are not something that come around very often these days, and so when you've got people who not only have expertise in the areas that they're bringing to you, but they also are bringing to you something that actually is a unique concept and a viable option, that gets exciting for people when we get to hear from them. And so one of the things that we did is, as a council, we said this is something that needs to have a closer look at. And so we, as a council, took a vote and said, hey, everybody, take a look at this. This is what needs to be looked at, and needs to be looked at viably. One of the things the council does, and most people don't understand, maybe all the county does, is take a look at our regional plan and look at the county on a regional level, because we have lots of cities, lots of municipalities in our area that have to do long-term planning in their areas. Our job is to help to look at the bigger picture. And one of those bigger picture items is, what do we do long-term for Salt Lake County? And that long-term plan for Salt Lake County is that vision that comes down the road, not 5 years, not 10 years, but 50 to 100 years, when we start talking about what do we look like in 50 years. And one of the things that we have not always done a good job at in looking at how the large spectrum of what Salt Lake County is that long-term planning piece. It's one of the reasons why we don't have east-west freeways right now. And being on the west side, I can tell you that is something that still irks me to this day. So when we're looking at that, one of the things I feel really strongly about, and this is me personally, is we need to make sure that we are preserving long-term for the citizens of Salt Lake County concepts that are actually going to be where we're going to head anyway. If you look at big cities and big areas, and Salt Lake County in general, we are not going out anymore. There's very little land left in Salt Lake County that can be built upon. What will end up happening is we'll start to go up, like all big cities. And when we go up, like all big cities do, and all big counties do, we end up having to then reclaim land. if we don't plan for that in the long term, then it costs us more. And so one of the things that we need to do when we start looking at Salt Lake County in the long term is how do we preserve these corridors? And how do we look at this in long-term perspectives so that we are actually planning for the future and making good decisions that will get us to where we want to be when we grow up, so to speak, right? So I had an opportunity for many years to be able to work out in Kearns at the Kearns-Oka Park Fitness Center, which is where our speed skating oval is for the 2002 Winter Olympics. And one of those great opportunities during that time was to be involved with the communities that planned what was going to be needed for long term so that we could get people around. And part of that included transportation discussions. Well, this is one of those transportation discussions we should be having going into the 2034 Olympics. And so this is one of those things that we would love for Wasatch Front Regional Council to take a look at. We would love for UDOT to take a closer look at. We would love for UTA and the railroads to get involved in this conversation and actually give some input and be part of the conversation so that we can have a viable discussion on what does this look like and what is the best path moving forward. The exciting thing is we've got numbers now to go off of, and that's a really fun place to be. So I'm excited about that. Long term, we oftentimes take a short-term myopic view and put a dime in front of our view and say we can't afford it. But really, can we not afford to take a look and miss the dollar out there for the dime in front of our face? And so those are some of the things that we really need to consider as we're moving forward into this. What is the long-term viability? What is it we need to do as we're growing up? And where do we need to go in the future? And that is something I challenge all those groups to come together and discuss. Thanks.
Thank you all so much for being here today. I'd like to, I'm Ray Ward, I'm House District 19. My district is Bountiful and West Bountiful, so not right here downtown, but not too far away. I'd like to clarify that I am not speaking for the legislature. I'm a guy in the legislature who thinks this is a good idea and hope that some of my other colleagues will come to think the same thing. At a basic common sense level, when cities get bigger, they get denser, they get higher. The land in the cities gets more valuable, and a thing happens. It happens in every city, and that is they need more transportation infrastructure, but that infrastructure itself starts to get in its own way. You need to have a freeway, but when you build the big enough freeway that you need, you can't get a bike over it, and you can't get a pedestrian over it. It just gets more and more crowded, and you're getting in each other's way to get to where you need to go. And there comes a point when even your transportation infrastructure itself is in an area that's so crowded that we say, this needs to not be in the middle of the rest of us. If we just had this one story down where it could have its own space moving back and forth, we could all get to where we want to get in this very valuable space in a way that would work out. Go to other big cities and just look at the big infrastructure projects that they've done. There's a whole bunch of big infrastructure projects that have been done. Sports stadiums have been built, and many of those have turned out very well for their cities. Some of them, 15 and 30 years later, then people changed their mind and said, wait, that wasn't exactly what I thought that was going to be, and then you were back again building a different sports stadium or something else. But go look at the places where they put their transportation underground. They're 100 years later, and super glad they did that, and can't imagine how they would even get back and forth in that crowded space if they didn't have their subway or their buses on a level where they could all move in and out easily and still get to the places that they needed to get to. This project itself sits, just only in this one part of Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County, but the meaning of the project lies in how it connects that downtown area to the whole rest of the Wasatch Front. So if you need to get to your job in downtown, this is going to make your life easier. If you need to get back and forth across downtown, this will make your life easier. If you're going into entertainment in downtown, including the other projects that we've already made for the Smith project, for the Miller project, if you want to get to one of those projects, this project connects to and leverages all of those so people can get in and out from them easier. We have, in the state over the last couple of years, made some commitments to some projects that were brought by some of our billionaires here. And I think those are going to turn out well for us in the long run. But it would be okay with me if we also gave credence to a project that was bought by a volunteer group of civil engineers instead of another billionaire. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Alejandro. I serve on the City Council in Salt Lake City. I represent the west side of, well, a portion of the west side of Salt Lake, and this project will mostly be within District 2 or around it. But let me tell you a little bit about what the issue here, the impact of trains in my community. Every day I see people crossing the train tracks, crossing the trains that are stopped in intersections, and some of you have sent me videos of those, crossing with bikes, crossing with kids, crossing with what they have because they need to go to work. And the train is stopped there for 45 minutes at a time sometimes. And that is happening every day in our city. Emergency personnel is rerouting every day, trying to get to the emergency on time. And people are missing up their jobs, missing up picking up their kids in time. The impacts are great, and we don't see it unless you live on the west side, and certainly I do. And if I'm late, most likely it's because of the trains. And I'm lucky enough to be able to be late, but many of my neighbors aren't. And the impacts of trains and the walls that they create around our neighborhoods are huge. And we have to take bold moves to change this. It would be a game changer for many in my neighborhood, but across the state, like it was mentioned by many of the speakers before me. Let me just be sincere with you. I think this is a great dream. Right now, it's a dream. It's a dream of many people here that are dreaming about something wonderful and something that could change our city, our state, could heal the wounds of the freeway and the train together and the impacts they have in our communities. But this is just going to be a dream unless we have more state leaders speaking about this and talking about the impacts of this. And we also need to have the owners of the land at the table talking about the impacts. We need to bring Union Pacific to the table. How do we bring Union Pacific to the table? How do we bring more legislators to the table to see the benefits of this is the key here. Certainly there is plenty of people in the community that are interested about making this happen. There seems to be quite a bit of interest in the county. There seems to be some legislators that are interested on it. There seem to be certainly many people in our city be interested on it too. But we need to bring the key holders of this. They could unlock this dream to come true. And that is Union Pacific, and that is the state. And I challenge all of you, whomever is out there, to make sure that we keep on talking about this and we keep putting the pressure where it needs to be. And the pressure needs to be on those two. Certainly, there is, we need to be partners too. Not going to shift blame. We have part on this, county and the city too. But the economic benefits are huge and impactful. But we need to bring those key holders to the table. So thank you so much.